yourself if you get hot or thirsty. Should we get started?
Sure.
All right. So, my name's Jacqueline Hill, and I'm one of the owners of Answers Pet Food. Okay. And that guy there is William. He is a 9-month-old white German Shepherd, and he is second generation raw fed, and he's going to be our spokes dog. So he looks really good right now, but he's only 9 months old, so it's not kind of expected to look good now. But so we are truly a family business. The gentleman on the top there is my husband. His name is Keith, and he is our CEO. That picture is about 20 years old, so he doesn't look that young. I'm not. He refuses to update the picture. Okay? Anyhow, he's actually a civil engineer, but he has his own engineering firm. But he sits in it as our CEO when we need him. And this gentleman here is my son. He's also referred to as Duck. That's been his nickname since he's been a child. And he graduated in 2009 with an accounting economics degree, which is when we launched the company. So he actually helped launch the company. And he's our money man. He's our CFO. And then that lady is my sister, Roxanne. And she has a master's degree in food science, which is very helpful when you're formulating pet food. So she's very knowledgeable. She's worked in the human industry most of the time, but her emphasis in the human industry was dairy and meat. So that worked out well for us. All right? And then me, my education is in microbiology, but I did not want to work in human labs, so I went to work in the veterinary industry. And I worked as a veterinary technician for 15 years. And I learned a lot. And that's where I got my passion for nutrition, because I saw epidemic conditions of cancer, digestion problems, skin problems, ear infections. And when I was laying on a German Shepherd cleaning out his ear for probably about the 5th time that year, and he was screaming in pain, that was kind of a pivotal moment for me when I said, there has got to be something better, because we are not helping these animals. We're just mandating them, and they're suffering because of us. So that's what set me on my mission. After I left the veterinary industry, I was hired by Nature's Variety. I don't know if you guys know, that's another raw diet on the market. They were one of the first big raw diets. And I used to head up their veterinary task force. So we did over 30 case studies on raw diets. We spoke at a lot of veterinarian colleges. And loved the company until they decided to sell out to an investment firm. And we all know what happens when investment firms take over. They're looking to make more money, and the quality of your products tend to plummet. So I was asked to leave in 2010 because I couldn't support what they were doing, and we were already started on the Answers project, and we launched our food in June of 2010. And that pretty lady down there, her name is Carly, and on July 26th she will be his wife. And she heads up our marketing department. So that's the Answers family. So a lot of people want to know why you would feed a raw diet, okay? And I'd like to start with the top reasons why dogs and cats go to the vet. And if you look at all those reasons, every one of them are related to diet, okay? Sprain may not be, but a proper diet can help heal a sprain quicker. But literally, every one of those conditions, dog and cat, is directly affected by diet. There's a veterinarian in Southern California by the name of Henry Pasternak. He wrote a really good book called Healing Pets with Nature's Miracle Cures. And in that book, he states that 90% of pets' health problems is due to what we're feeding them. Okay, that's a really nice way of saying we're making our dogs sick by what we're feeding them. If 90% of health issues are due to what we're feeding them. He also states in there that a raw diet can increase a dog's lifespan by 183%. It's almost triple. Okay? Did you know that average dog's lifespan is about 20 years? That means we should be seeing dogs 22, 23, 25. Okay? Average lifespan of a cat is 25. We should be seeing cats in their 30s, and we don't see that. We've accepted a new norm that if we get a dog to 15, we did a really good job, right? If we get a cat to maybe 17, 18, we did a really good job. So I think we've accepted a new norm. We've also accepted a norm that cats regurgitate on a regular basis, and that's so-called normal, which is not. And that allergies and things like that, we can't do anything about them because that's, you know, an allergy, so therefore we have to accept it. So I want to kind of look at why feed a raw diet from a scientific view. Okay, this is the skull of a German Shepherd, like that puppy. And this is the skull of a wolf. Okay, not much difference, is there? Now we know, and nobody seems to argue, that wolves are carnivores. Okay, but we seem to argue that dogs maybe are omnivores, meaning they can survive well off of plant material. But this is the skull of a cow. That's an herbivore. You see the grinding teeth, right? And the incisors for grabbing the grass, okay? That tells us a lot. This is an omnivore. This is a bear, okay? This bear has canines for ripping and tearing flesh, but this bear also has grinding teeth like we do for chewing and eating plant material. This are the teeth of a dog, okay? Do you see any grinding teeth there for plant material? No, none whatsoever. This tooth is called the carnassial tooth. That tooth is very indicative of a canine, more so than the actual canine teeth. Okay? Do you see how this dog is eating, and do you see how that wolf is eating? Do you see what part in the mouth that they're chewing with? That's because that's the cutting and tearing tooth. Okay? If a wolf loses that tooth, he'll die because he can't eat. All right? Yes?
Do you think that dogs have changed genetically because of human influence in terms of their diet and ability to digest or?
I don't honestly know, because
food.
80 years is how long processed kibble food has been on the market. About 80 years.
Right.
Okay, if evolution happened or genetic change happened, then I would be very different than my grandmother, right? Because it was about 80 years between us. Okay, 80 years doesn't change. The evolution is much slower than that. I do think what's happened is they can survive, but not thrive, and that's why their lifespans are shortened and their health conditions are so poor. So they're surviving on the plant material, but they're not thriving on it.
Well, I was just thinking of the evolution of dogs from, early humans when they first started calling humans and they would get their grass.
Right, yeah. I mean, their diets consisted of some cooked food from the humans, but they also some carrion. Carrion is really what was their main diet, which was basically rotting flesh. Yeah. Another way to look at the how an animal should be fed is looking at the digestive system. Okay, so this is the digestive system of a wolf. Okay, the cecum is the part of the intestinal tract that holds the bacteria for digesting plant material. Okay, so this is the opposite of a carnivore. This is an herbivore. See how large the cecum is because it has to have a lot of bacteria for digesting that. But also, look at the large intestine. You see how long that is? Well, that's because that plant material is fermenting so that the nutrition can get out of it in that long. This is the large intestine of of a wolf. You see how short it is? Because there's no plant fermentation happening in there. All right, well, if you look at a dog digestive system, it's pretty much almost exact to the wolf's. Okay, so our dogs have never asked us to cook their food. That was our idea. Okay, cooked food in a bag is for our convenience, not for a dog or cat's health. All right, and their food should be raw, and genetically and anatomy-wise and digestive-wise, that's how their body is going to best utilize their food. The result of cooking and processing food has been 90% of their health problems: allergies, itchy skin, digestive upset, cancer, short lifespans. All right? In the past, I have been a little bit more politically correct about bashing kibble, but I'm getting older and I'm getting less patient, and I'm getting a lot more direct, okay? Kibble, I don't care if it's grain-free, I don't care if it's made with the absolute best starting ingredients, but the processing of that product creates carcinogens that every time we're pouring that into our dog's bowl, we're giving them carcinogens that their body has to fight and overcome that to prevent them from getting cancer. Did you ever hear of grilling meat? That if you eat a lot of grilled meat, it's carcinogenic? That's called heterocyclic amines. That's high temperatures changing the meat and creating the carcinogens. Well, somebody got the brilliant idea, like, oh, if that happens with humans, what about dogs? They cook that under high pressure, right, and high temperature. So they tested 25 brands. 24 of them came up positive for high amounts of the heterocyclic amines, all right? I'm thinking the one that did it probably was a fluke or the test was wrong. Did you ever hear that eating McDonald's French fries have toxins in it? They did a test on high heat to starches. Well, those high heats are cause acrylamides to form, and that's what's happening in our kibble. In order for kibble to be a crunchy, hard piece of cereal, it has to be about 60% carbohydrates or starches, okay? Just because a food is grain-free does not mean it's carbohydrate-free, okay? We're switching out grains for potatoes and tapioca and peas and lentils. Those are still carbohydrates. A dog is only supposed to get about 14% carbohydrates in their diet. We're giving them over 60%, and that's causing problems. Other things are on kibble are preservatives, food coloring. But even if we don't take those things into account, dogs are supposed to be eating moisture with their food, okay? If they were eating prey in the wild, it'd be about 70% moisture, okay? When we feed kibble, we rob moisture from their body, okay? That dehydration exacerbates conditions like urinary tract infections, kidney disease, and things like that. They have done tests that even if a dog drinks twice as much as a dog who's fed a canned or a raw diet, it still does not take up or replace that moisture that it's robbing from the body. And of course, we talked about it being too high in the carbohydrates. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about our diet. We have basically three different, sorry. Carly gives me these fancy things and I can't keep up with them. Come back. Okay. So we have three formulas. We have additional answers, which is what we call our superfoods. That includes our raw goat's milk and our fermented fish stock. We have straight answers and we have detailed answers, and I'll talk a little bit more about them. Things that make our brand a little bit different than other brands, the number one thing is called fermented nutrition. We're going to talk about that in a minute. We also don't pasteurize. We offer a limited ingredient diet. Our sourcing is extremely superior. We are a green certified company, and we are a reasonably priced diet. All right, let's talk about fermentation. You guys know what fermentation means? Yogurt, sauerkraut, beer, wine, my two favorites. Okay. Say again? Soy sauce. Okay. Kimchi. Fermentation is the way we used to preserve foods prior to chemicals and refrigeration. Okay? Do you ever wonder how Columbus brought food from Spain over on the ship for that long time? Right? They actually fermented their food. Fermentation was a big part of human diets and was a big part of pets' diets in the wild. When they would rip open a prey, they would eat the gut. Did you ever hear of tripe? Okay, that's a lot of fermentation in tripe, okay? Also, they would bury their food in the ground, and they would do that to ferment it, not to hide it, okay? Fermentation provides probiotics. Do you guys know what probiotics are? Probiotics are the good bacteria in the gut, okay? And that's extremely important. We're going to talk about that, why that's extremely important. Fermentation not only provides good bacteria, but it breaks down the food, starts pre-digesting it, and it creates other nutrients that we're not even all quite aware of yet. Okay, we're just starting to learn a little bit about what it does. So fermentation is a really good thing. Okay, and a lot of dogs got fermented things. Did you know poop is fermented? Okay, that's many times. Did you ever notice that dogs go after the smelly things? Right? Did your dogs ever go after roadkill that's green? I can't figure out why my dogs like to roll in it first. It's like, I wouldn't mind you eating it, but please don't roll that. All right. Okay. This is a fancy chart. Did you ever hear the term food is the first medicine? Okay. Did you ever hear heal the gut, heal the patient? Okay. Did you know, now remember my education is in microbiology, so this is like all about what I like, all right? Did you know that if a gut has the right bacteria mix, that it can make everything the body needs to heal itself? All right? Did you hear what I said? If the gut is healthy, it can make everything, and so those bacteria can work together and make amazing substances that act like drugs, except they have no bad side effects. They only have good side effects, okay? That's why they say that the gut makes up somewhere between 70 and 90% of the immune system, all right? Pretty amazing that the gut can take care of that, and it's also pretty amazing that we treat it so poorly. We put drugs down there, we put antibiotics down there, we put the wrong food down there, we put chemicals down there, we put preservatives down there, all right? So this is why we're seeing the problems we are seeing. This is Carly's. Okay. All right. So one of the things I want to talk about first is our fermented raw goat's milk. Okay. This is not only just the raw goat's milk, but we add 2 bacteria, and we'll talk about that in a minute. A little bit of raw honey and a really tiny amount of cinnamon. Anybody here using the raw goat's milk? Okay. Very good. Very good. All right. So what's so exciting about raw goat's milk? All right. When I was a veterinary technician, I was taught don't feed dairy to dogs and cats because they're lactose intolerant. You ever hear that? Yeah. Well, you can't be lactose intolerant to raw milk, okay? Lactose is the sugar molecule in milk, and it requires an enzyme called lactase to digest it. Raw milk comes with all the lactase to digest the lactose. It's funny how Mother Nature is perfect like that, right? Well, guess what happens? As soon as you pasteurize it, the first thing that's destroyed are the enzymes. So you remove the lactase, and of course then nobody can digest the lactose, okay? So when a veterinarian says, oh, don't feed milk to cats and dogs because they're lactose intolerant, say, hey, don't worry about it, we got that covered, this is raw milk. And they probably won't understand that, but it doesn't matter anyhow. Okay, now remember we talked about the gut and how important it was, all right? When we in the United States love I like to call the silver bullet. Let's pull out the nutrient that works to make you healthy out of all these different foods. So they take the probiotics, which is a good bacteria, and they put it in, and they suspend it somehow in animation, either freeze drying or different forms. They put it in a pillar powder, and you're supposed to, put that down your dog's throat. Well, guess what? Your dog can eat poop and not get sick because he has a very acidic stomach, right? Most of the things that get put in his mouth, bacteria-wise, dies in the acidic stomach so that he doesn't get sick when he's eating that roadkill and all that other gross stuff. So what we have to do is figure out how to get good bacteria on the other side of that acidic stomach. And they know from tests that fermented milk delivers probiotics 100 times better to the other side of the stomach than any other form of providing probiotics. And that's why we see the results that we see, okay? Because if we want to get an immune system under control from too much itchies and all that other stuff happening, we've got to get the immune system calmed down, and that is all part of what? The gut, right? Okay. So that's why this works so well. Does anybody's cat or dog ever experience inflammatory bowel disease? IBS, IBD, something like that? That's a condition that's very prominent in dogs and cats, and the bacteria that usually causes that is called H. pylori, or Helicobacter pylori. Well, they know that raw goat's milk can actually kill H. pylori. So a lot of dogs who are dependent on antibiotics and steroids can actually get off of them by using the raw goat's milk.